Oh, hi, I'm Tim Gibbs with Delaware Health Force, Director of the Delaware Mini Medical School program. Delighted to have you all here this evening. This series is sponsored with Bay Health down in Kent and Northern Sussex County, Delaware. And we're delighted to have their partnership in this. So this is early fall 2025. There will be a late fall as well. We are YouTube streaming at that address, youtube.com/delamed302. From there, you can click and you can find the live stream. And in a minute here, I will also drop that live stream to the direct link into the chat. You'll want to note this address right here, DelawareMinimed.org. That's where you're going to go if you miss a class to see the video and also the presentation that was done for the class that you missed, and also see what class is up next. So the history, many of you have already heard. The Academy of Medicine was founded in 1930. Delaware MiniMed and Delaware Health Source are programs of the Academy of Medicine. This is funded by state and fiscal recovery funds. That's the American Rescue Plan Act, the COVID recovery funds. And even once those funds are exhausted, we will continue Mini Medical School. Our partnerships for this are with between Delaware Health Force, the Sussex County Health Coalition, and Bay Health Medical Center. In terms of attendance, you can attend as many of the sessions as you would like. If you would like a certificate at the end that is signed by myself and the Executive Director of the Academy DPHA, then you need to attend all of the sessions. You can miss one, but you do have to make it up. We're no longer mailing out physical certificates. They're only sent to you electronically. You can print them once you get them. For people who only attend, 5 or fewer, there's a self-signed certificate that you're able to download and check off which ones you attended, and then you sign it yourself. For any of the adult learners in the group, there's no continuing education for this, no credits of any kind, CE, CME. There are no grades or tests in doing this. However, if you miss a class and you want to do a makeup and have it count, Nicole Sabine is going to send you a couple of questions based on the content for you to answer, just so we know that you attended. Why do we do this? We want to enhance health literacy in the community. We want to expose middle, junior, high school, undergraduate, graduate, adult learners to a range of topics and a range of types of providers for career goal setting and just their own, education. The providers who you're going to be hearing from are going to share a little bit about their own pathways to becoming whatever type of degree and what they're doing now. And we do encourage a dialogue after the presentation between the students and the presenters. You can ask questions. Just remember, they shouldn't be of a personal nature. They shouldn't be of a family nature, because we've got privacy things that we need to focus on here. This is a Zoom webinar. We can't see you except for your names, and the presenter cannot see anything except for what's going on in the Q&A. Any housekeeping questions will be addressed by myself or Christy Handley. Clinical questions are usually addressed by the presenter. You do need to stay through the entire presentation to be counted as present. And importantly, if you are watching via YouTube, you need to immediately, while you are watching live, send an email to nsabine, that's N-S-A-B-I-N-E, @delamed.org, letting her know that that's the way you attended, and I'll be watching in YouTube as well. So this is the overview. We're going to be covering artificial intelligence, kidney disease, palliative care, exploring the world of pharmacy, adventures in gastroenterology, favorite of mine, and superheroes without capes, which is about social workers. At this point, it is my pleasure to welcome the speaker, Dr. Jonathan Kaufmann, DO, who's the Vice President and Chief Information Officer for Bay Health. And Dr. Kaufman, I will turn it over to you. Stop screen sharing and allow you to do the rest. Well, you go ahead and introduce yourself, and that'll stop screen sharing.
Sure. Thank you very much, Tim, and everyone for joining. I'm honored and very excited to share a topic that I'm passionate about, which is healthcare IT, and in particular, artificial intelligence. So there's a lot of stuff on the screen about me, but honestly, just know that I'm a very nerdy doctor. I grew up in Delaware, but I'm originally from Pittsburgh. And I'll jump into maybe my slide deck just so it's not distracting to have all that stuff on there. Um, so let me share. Whoops, wrong button. Screens, PowerPoint, and let's go play from the start. So Tim, can I get a thumbs up or you can see it?
Well, right now we can see your entire deck, not like you're in notation mode.
How about now?
Correct.
All right.
Right.
Perfect. So, many of you that live in Sussex County will recognize that building on the screen. That's our Sussex campus, right off Route 1. So, as mentioned earlier, my name is Jonathan Kaufman. I am a board certified internal medicine doctor. I grew up in Delaware. My high school was Tower Hill. You always got to know where people went to high school when you grow up here. I then went to the University of Delaware. I double majored in biology and history, which sounds like a lot, but I had a ton of AP credits. So a real big plug for AP credits to get you the ability to do a lot of really cool stuff in college. In college, I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I applied to medical school because I was good at biology, and several people told me that I would probably do well in medical school, but I honestly did not have my sights set on that since I was a little kid, which many people do. So after I graduated, I was accepted to the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, which is called PCOM for short, which is, even though Delaware doesn't have a medical school, PCOM and Jefferson, which are both in Philadelphia, act as our state's medical school. So I got a little bit of scholarship money and went to 4 years of med school in Philadelphia. I did my postgraduate training because after medical school, you do something called a residency at Christiana Hospital for 3 years. After that, I was kind of tired of Delaware, and I had met my wife, also a native Delawarean. She went to Mount Pleasant, and we moved to Honolulu, Hawaii, which was just to see the world. There, I discovered that I was really good with computers and medicine. I had played around with computers in high school and college. Both my college roommates were computer science majors, so they helped me build my first computer. And then I wound up going around to garage sales, buying up old computers, fixing them, and selling them to help pay for medical school. It didn't quite cover all of it, didn't cover very much of it, but I enjoyed it, and it was kind of looking back my start in all this technology stuff. So I kind of rose through the ranks of my group of doctors and eventually found my calling as an informatician. So an informatician is basically a fancy way of saying the combination of clinical medicine and and IT, and you smash those two things together. My job is to really help physicians use IT better and help the IT people interact with the clinicians better. So I basically, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a nerdy doctor, so I speak nerd and I speak doctor, and I'm able to sort of be the Rosetta Stone between those two groups of people. Um, AI, why? Because it's fun. So this is a ChatGPT generated image. I gave a presentation and I wanted to look like a Jedi for this science fiction themed conference that I went to. And these pieces of technology are amazing. I do love everything new and glossy and fun in my personal life. I have a toothbrush that has artificial intelligence built into it. Not that I think it's that helpful, but I wanted to try it out. So I do think that artificial intelligence um, is an amazing sort of sphere, and it's going to be life-changing for everyone if it hasn't been already. So enough about me and my history. I kind of want to dive into the content. Um, so we'll jump in. So an agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about AI. Some of this may be review if for you if you kind of are on the deep end of using these tools, but some folks may not. So I just wanted to like at least have a baseline setting of what AI is, and then we'll talk about how in medicine we're starting to use AI and have used AI in both diagnostics, medical imaging, administrative work, and then some of the stuff that people often forget about, and I often forget about, that there are real thorny ethical and legal issues. And then we'll talk maybe a little bit about the future. So um, I want to. I didn't realize the chat wouldn't be something I can see, but Tim said I will try to pull it up here. I want folks to put into the chat what use cases for artificial intelligence they think it could help with or are helping with. And Tim, I can't see it on my screen, but maybe as stuff starts rolling in, we can you can read off a few if you don't mind.
Yeah, and folks, if you would, please actually use the Q&A, not the chat, because I've got a
Oh, sorry.
Q&A window
Thank you.
open. So, Doctor, if you could just tell them what you want a second time, and then we'll be
Sure.
good.
So, what uses of artificial intelligence are there in medicine, and what do you think it could be used for? Oh, there's Q&A.
Nathaniel's
I can
quick
see it
out
now.
of the gate saying prediction, surgical procedures, medical diagnostics, used to diagnose X-rays, patient records, cancer
Awesome.
cell type identification, surgery, physician notes, more predictions, avoiding simple mistakes, reading results from MRI, CT scans, medical diagnosis, data processing. You got it.
Awesome. I can see it now. Thank you, Tim. So these are awesome. And a lot of you'll see a lot of the stuff that's up there. Mental health care, a great one. I'll touch on it. Robots, some very, very, very interesting and on point predictions there. So thank you for doing that. I'll try to keep my eye on it because I love reading this stuff to kind of see what you're all thinking about. So what is artificial intelligence? And so when I started using ChatGPT a couple of years ago, it felt like magic. It really did. And this gentleman, Arthur C. Clarke, is actually a science fiction author that I read a ton as a kid. And for those adults who may be on, he wrote the book 2001: A Space Odyssey, which was turned into a movie, which has the very famous HAL scene, the artificial intelligence that kind of goes rogue. But his quote is, "It's not magic, it's math." And I think that as we use these tools, they truly feel magical. It truly feels like you're interacting with another person or an intelligence, but it is not. It is math. And so we have to understand that math is limited, and it comes with inherent issues that we need to be aware of. So some key terms. So artificial intelligence is the simulation, and I bolded simulation because I do think, again, to that previous slide, that you can very quickly forget that it is not a simulation, that it is truly intelligent. The folks, unfortunately, there's some stuff in the news where you've heard that people, interacting with these tools start to think that they're real and have conversations with them, and both good and terrible things can happen. But it is a simulation of human intelligence. So machine learning is is a sort of a concept where the algorithms can actually learn and grow and change over time to identify patterns and improve their performance without explicitly being programmed to do it. Natural language processing, this is the ability to basically go from text to speech. So if I'm talking as I am right now and I see the words on the bottom of the screen. NLP is able to know that SEE, is not C, the letter C, because of context and because of the algorithm that underlies it. And then large language model. This is a type of artificial intelligence that uses large data sets, and we'll talk a little bit more about LLMs, to summarize and generate, and that generate is probably should be bolded, new text and images. So this is another question, and maybe in the questions, if you want to just, when was the first use of artificial intelligence in medicine? Kind of want to get an idea of where folks are thinking. I don't know if it's 2020, 2016, 2003. So kind of recently, 2000s. 2018, 2015. All right. It's actually 1972. And so this gets at kind of the definition of what AI is. Everyone thinks of AI as ChatGPT, as Google's DeepMind, IBM Watson, these big computers that can generate crazy, and again, simulate human interaction or do deep research. But the first AI medical system was at Stanford, and it just recommended antibiotics for an infection using an if-then. So Boolean logic, if this, then that. That is very basic, predictive artificial intelligence. In the 1990s, we started using drug interactions. So 2 or 3 or 4 medications have an interaction. Those would then flag and support the doctors with guidelines. And then again in 2011, things got a little bit flashier with IBM's Watson that honestly never really panned out, but it was touted as helping oncologists with doctors and treatment recommendations. So the first actual uses of artificial intelligence, regardless of medicine, were actually in the 1950s, when a lot of these terms were coined. It's really the computing power and processing power, things like NVIDIA and the GPU chips and other things that have really accelerated us and allowed to do some of the things that they were only imagining in the 1950s. So generative versus predictive AI. So predictive AI is that if-then stuff. If I've got 5 vital signs like your heart rate, your blood pressure, your temperature, other things, or 5 different lab values, I can predict that you might have a heart attack or a stroke or something along those lines. So very, not very basic, but basic in the fact that you take inputs and you are able to get an output that will help drive decision making. Generative AI is what exploded with ChatGPT. This is the ability for the AI to create new content. That's what sort of caught everyone's imagination in the past 2 to 3 years, and is starting the sort of revolution. But again, we've used these predictive tools for many, many years. So it's not magic. Generative AI, ChatGPT is not magic. It's just more math and it's faster. And that the ability to do those queries relatively fast compared to what we had from a computing standpoint just a few years ago is what's making all of this stuff possible. So what is a large language model? Again, we sort of touched on it, but basically large language models take huge amounts of data and get trained on it. So they look at it, they are ingested in a very complex technical terms, and then are able to sort of manipulate, adapt it, and then generate new content. So an example I use with my kids is we could take all of the Harry Potter series. There's what, 9 books or 7 books, or and create a large language model on that. And if we ask it a question about Harry Potter, it's going to give us a really good answer. But if I ask it about fish in the ocean, it's going to spit out nonsense because it doesn't have the input to then give a logical answer. And these tools want to give an answer. They're designed to give an answer. And that's when we start getting into things like hallucinations. Well, it will make something up to satisfy the need to finish that query. They're not good at saying, I don't know. So they're only as good as the training data and the training models. And as we get into healthcare applications, you start to see some of the concern we have around the data types and the data sets that we use to train these things, because if we have bad data in, we're going to get bad predictions. All right, so AI in everyday life. Again, this is just sort of a nice slide to say AI is all around us. It's in your keyboard when you make a mistake, and I have terrible spelling. That corrective thing in your iPhone or your Android device, or the swiping to type, or you're dictating your messages. Those are all AI. Alexa, Siri, all of that. Siri, actually, Alexa just woke up in my office. No, no, Alexa, I didn't. Um, it's all around us in cars and other places. So I want to touch briefly on what a disruptive technology is, because AI is a disruptive technology. And a buddy of mine helped me put these. Do you mind just muting them or just unplug it? What would you like to know about? So, we'll talk. So I'm going to flip back and forth between two slides. So this is the Flatiron Building in New York City. It's a very famous building because it's kind of shaped like a triangle. I want you to kind of keep this picture in your mind, and then I'm going to advance the slide. And this isn't one of those find the difference pictures where there's like a million. There's one very major difference here that I want you to kind of pay attention to. So this is just 20 years later. Okay, and you don't have to put it in the chat because there's 200 and something of you guys. But the biggest change, if you can't sort of tell, is the automobile. So the automobile was a very disruptive technology, and in only 20 years, it replaced all of the horses and the wagons that you'll see in that picture. And now think about all of the stuff that went into supporting the horses and the wagons. There were the guys who fixed the wagons, who shoed the horses, who fed the horses. There were people who sold the hay and had it shipped in. There are guys who had big pooper scoopers that went around and picked it up. And all of those folks within a span of 15 to 20 years all had to transition into a different job. Some retired, some got new jobs in the automotive industry, and some didn't work at all. And so as you think about AI, you can kind of keep this in the back of your mind as how this is going to disrupt things in almost any process. The other thing we like to talk about again, I love AI enabled toothbrushes. The innovation trigger is I saw an ad on Facebook. I'm like, this is great. I'll brush my teeth better. It's going to be awesome. I ordered from Amazon. It shows up 2 days later. I plug it in and I start using it, and then I realize that it's just a toothbrush, and I go down all the way to this trough of disillusionment, and eventually you kind of wind up using it like a normal toothbrush, maybe, but with some of the AI features that help me to improve. So almost every single technology goes through this. And that trigger was the launch of ChatGPT. The media was filled with everyone's going to lose their jobs and it's going to be awesome and horrendous depending on which news channel you were watching. But we're starting to maybe get up into this slope of enlightenment and plateau of productivity as these tools mature and some of the hype dies down. All right. The other question, and I either should have this tattooed somewhere on my body or a big sign, but you need a problem to be solved. You can't just throw generative AI at something and hope it fixes stuff, right? So you have to identify what problem or what issue you're trying to resolve, and then you pick the right tool to do it. So AI in medicine. So there are essentially 3 or 4 different areas, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into this. I just want to make sure I'm okay on time. So we're going to talk about diagnostic precision, the ability to go through a lot of medical data, saving time. This is a big thing for healthcare. It is an incredibly administrative career, and as you all know, as healthcare consumers, when you go to the doctor, how much paperwork, how many bills, how horrendous the process is. And as a doctor, I am all too aware of both sides of it because I'm a patient too. And then help us make better decisions. So the first thing that everyone thinks about is AI as a diagnostic tool. We've actually been using AI to help with mammography and X-rays and CT scans for 15 to 20 years. The FDA actually has approved models. So they have gone through rigorous testing to help physicians make decisions. And so they are able to detect things like strokes or pulmonary nodules. These are little tiny tumors in lungs that might be missed. strokes, and then mammograms I mentioned. The other thing that folks are using AI for is a triage. So triage is I've got 25 patients and I don't know which one is the sickest or has something that I need to do something about. So the AI can take a look at the images and go, hey, this guy number 19, he's got something really bad. You need to look at this one now. So it'll bump that one to the top. The red dot is when in the old days, a technologist or whoever was shooting the picture of the x-ray or doing the CAT scan, well, they're not doctors, they're technicians, but they're really good at knowing if something is right or wrong because they've been just taking pictures of thousands and thousands of patients. They used to put a red dot on the film so that the radiologist would go, oh, hey, even though this one just came in, I'm going to look at it first over these other 20. So it helps triage it. So here's a picture of an EKG. This is a heart rhythm strip where they put the little electrode jobbies on you and measure your heart's rhythm. On the left-hand side, that text is what we have gotten for years and years and years, which is basic artificial intelligence. It'll measure the things. It'll give us a rough idea of what's going on. But the AI is getting better and better to help us weed out some of the stuff that's not as important. Yes, there is a prolonged QT, which is just a measurement, but it's not clinically significant. So it kind of the AI portion of it kind of gets rid of that. And then as another, this is a very fancy algorithm that I talked about. The human brain can remember 4, 5, 6 things, or maybe we have a calculator where we put in 5 or 6 different variables to spit out a risk score. The computer can take in 150 variables in real time and spit out a predictive. So sepsis, which is a very, very bad kind of infection that folks can die from in the hospital, we want to predict whether it's going to happen or not and intervene earlier. The earlier we intervene, the better patients do. So this tool is able to improve the mortality, which is the rate at which people die, by 1/5. So the human models, we only can look at 5 or 10. So very cool stuff going on in diagnostics. So the future in diagnostics, a collaboration between AI and doctors. This I'll talk a little bit about at the end, but it's a tool to help us analyze complex data and to combine human expertise a human should be involved in validating the findings. And then there's some really cool stuff with potentially personalized medicine. It's a kind of a generic term, but basically not every patient who has a specific kind of cancer is the same. So I might have lung cancer and you might have lung cancer, but I have heart disease and you don't, or I have diabetes and you don't. And so the treatments might be different, even though we have the same condition up here, all this other stuff may require different tweaks to the treatment regimen that we would need. So AI training. Now, unfortunately, the audio I don't think is going to work. So this is honestly, I just wanted to show you guys this video because I think it's really cool for a variety of reasons. But I want you to at least read the words on the screen and pay attention and try to do what the instructions say.
This is a test of selective attention. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball. How many passes did you count? The correct answer is 15 passes. But did you see the gorilla?
So a very large percentage of the population, when staring intently and trying to count the number of basketball passes, misses the gorilla. And aside from being a really, really cool example of just how humans are unable to multitask, that was what the study was shooting for. kind of gets at a piece of AI training. And this is a second, they actually recreated this gorilla, what they call the invisible gorilla. So they recreated the invisible gorilla study in medicine. This is again with humans, and I'll get to, it'll have a point with AI soon, I promise. They actually embedded a picture of a gorilla, and you can kind of see it up there with the blue arrow, into 5 slices of a CT scan. A CT scan basically takes pictures horizontally of your body. And there can be maybe 100, 150 slices in a scan. And so this gorilla was in 5 slices, and they told the radiologists that they were looking for, I think, pulmonary nodules, which are tiny little cancers. And 83% of the radiologists missed the gorilla because they were looking so intently for the pulmonary nodule. So what's the point I'm trying to make is that if you ask a very specific question, you're probably you may miss stuff unrelated to that question that's also important. And so AI, as I mentioned earlier, is only as good as the data that you ask and the question that you're asking. So if we had asked AI if there was a pulmonary nodule on this slice of the CT scan, it would say no, but it wouldn't necessarily mention the fact that there's a gorilla in it. And if that gorilla were a broken bone or a blood vessel that had burst or something like that, that would be a real big problem. And so how we ask the questions, how we train the models to respond to either not respond to just the specific question, but to look at the entire image or the entire EKG for not just the question we're asking. So that's a big issue right now in AI is how do you train these things and how do you design the question that you're asking in a way that you're not going to miss the gorilla, so to speak. So AI for treatment recommendations. So this is happening. I work in a clinic with residents, which are young doctors, and every single one of them use Open Evidence. Open Evidence is a large language model that uses all of the medical literature that it's able to access, which is not all the medical literature, but a lot of it, to help with treatment recommendations. And so you can say that, and I'm a 45-year-old man or 46-year-old man with a couple medical problems who comes in with a cough and a cold, what would the next treatment recommendation would be? And it would give me a recommendation for that patient, and it would show me the evidence behind it. So folks are using these tools now, and they are very, very helpful. So the pros and cons of the AI diagnosis, they're very, very fast, right? For me to look up all the studies on a 46-year-old man with these 3 medical problems, some of the side effects and issues that might arise if I use this antibiotic versus that antibiotic would take me hours and hours and hours. Or I would just have to remember it because I was taught in a lecture while I was in medical school. I can't remember that. No doctor can remember all of that. So and especially keeping up with new literature. So it's very, very helpful to help make a diagnosis. But again, if I ask it the wrong question, I'm going to get the wrong answer. It is able to find patterns sometimes that we miss. And it doesn't get tired. So there was a very interesting talk that I heard where there's a group of people that are using AI to make phone calls to patients after surgery, something a nurse usually has to do. A nurse can call maybe 25, 30, 40 patients a day. Well, AI can call 1 million and doesn't get tired, and it can listen forever and be empathetic. But the cons are bias, right? So if all of the studies that this open evidence tool have are on white men, and you're a Black woman, it's going to potentially give you bad information. So the evidence or the stuff that it's used to train on can cause bias. Empathy, a good friend of mine who's a critical care doctor said AI can't hold your hand. It can't literally hold your hand. It is very difficult to replicate human empathy. And then privacy concerns. If I say Jonathan Kaufmann is a 46-year-old man who has these 17 medical problems, and that gets stored in Amazon's cloud, what happens if it gets hacked? Now they have all my personal health data because we used it to help make a diagnosis. So the administrative burden on healthcare. Now, this is a very messy picture. It actually kind of looks like my art to this day. But this is a pretty famous picture in the medical world. It was published in 2012. And on the left side of the screen, there's this guy in orange sitting at the computer. He's the doctor, and this little girl drew this picture. She's sitting on an exam table. It's got rainbows on it, of course, like my daughter would draw. And her parents are here. So, the fact that this little girl drew the doctor, not listening to her with a stethoscope or standing next to her holding her hand, but sitting at a computer, was sort of evidence about how far we as a community and as a profession have drifted away from the patient, and we were stuck staring at a screen. So this is very dissatisfying to patients. It's very dissatisfying to physicians who are not typists and data entry clerks, and it sometimes really felt like and feels like we are. So here's some data. The doctors spend about 50% of their time doing documentation. It leads to a lot of burnout, a lot of dissatisfaction. The physician community is really, really struggling with burnout through COVID and after, where it sort of stinks to be a doctor because you're not doing the things that bring you joy, which is seeing patients and treating patients. Ambient voice technology, this is something that's out there now. We are using it at Bay Health. Basically, Tim, I don't know if you, real quick, were you able to hear the audio or no during the last video?
Just barely.
Just barely. All right, I might crank it up, but I wanted basically what ambient voice is you take your smartphone, you turn on the app, and you press record, and you put it down, and it would listen to the conversation me as the physician and you as the patient would have, and it knows that I'm the doctor and you're the patient, and it takes all of that information and creates my note. I just press a button and then my documentation is essentially done. I have to talk out loud. I have to talk through my physical exam and my decision making, which is something that we don't always do. Once it's said out loud, the technology can capture it and create that note for us. So we measure something called pajama time, because a lot of physicians, after they finish seeing their last patient, go home, have dinner with their family, put on their PJs and do work. And I've had doctors working regularly until 2 o'clock in the morning, trying to finish their charts. And that just stinks, right? This technology kind of allows us to unload that work to something else and get home by the end of the day. And if you're able to hear it or not, the testimonials that you'll hear from the video here, that this technology has extended careers, it's saved marriages. Patients like it and physicians really like it. So it is right now primarily used in the ambulatory setting, which is in an outpatient doctor's offices. But we're starting to use it in hospitals, in emergency departments. Nurses will start using it soon. You will not see clinicians at the keyboard when you're interacting with them, probably at all, or very minimally over the next 3 to 5 years. So we're going to try this video. If it works, great. If it's not, maybe Tim, hop on and give me a thumbs up if you can hear it.
Probably cuts down to about 25%, so a decrease of 75% or so of my daily documentation time.
So patient experience is what we are looking for nowadays, like quality care, and that has improved definitely. Nowadays, patient feels better connected with us because we are talking to them personally. We are there for that moment.
The biggest burden is that cognitive burden of getting data into the system. And with DAX, that is essentially eliminated. I tell people it's the greatest thing now that I can just sit back and relax and have a meaningful conversation regarding what's going on and not have to worry about inputting the data.
It certainly opens up the ability to have some free time that could be translated into seeing more patients. And I think that's what you will see over time, is that you'll be able to add an extra patient or 2 or 4 to a session.
The reduction of physician burnout and the reduction of provider burnout has been tremendous benefit to all of us. The savings built into DAX and the return on investment has truly been remarkable.
Our patients see us being progressive, and that they know that we're looking to adapt with the times. And I think that that says a lot about a healthcare provider, that we're investing in our future and where things are going.
I think this will be a game changer in many ways, really restoring the joy of medicine back to our providers, and then restoring that intimacy of the encounter for the patient.
So DAX is a product, it's a brand, but there are many different vendors that are in this space working on it. So we do use Microsoft DAX. We are looking at some other products as well, and trying to push this out. The issue and some of it is it's not free, right? So this is added cost that the organizations that your practices have to take on, and worry about the risk of the data and other things. But almost everyone that's adopted it has really found it to be significantly improving their well-being. So very cool stuff. So this is another place where I think math is helping. There's a company called Lean Toss. This is a longer video. I'm not going to play all of it, but it kind of shows you the complexity it goes into for scheduling. Infusion is where if you have or know someone who's had cancer, they have to go and get chemotherapy at an infusion center. So the scheduling of that, because they have to get labs drawn, they have to get an IV placed, and then they have to, and different medications have different times that they need to infuse for, and monitoring and other things. So it's very complex. And folks have been doing this manually for a long period of time. So I will maybe watch 2 minutes of this tops, and then we'll kind of get back into it. But
Yeah, Dr. Kaufmann, we're having a little bit of a difficult time hearing you.
oh, sorry. How about now? Better?
Much better. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I think it's because my volume was so high. I apologize. So this is about an infusion center, which is where chemotherapy is given, and it is about the scheduling challenges and how math can really improve patient experience. So we'll watch a minute or two tops, and I apologize about the audio.
Center has 4 big challenges: long patient waiting times, midday peaks in the infusion schedule, overburdened nurses, and capacity management. Why does that happen? Because almost every day starts with slow mornings and ends with slow evenings, with a chaotic period of time in the middle of the day. Most patients want to avoid the morning and afternoon rush hour, schedule their clinic and infusion appointments on the same day, and have varying treatment times. Moving them smoothly is a complex math problem most EHRs and scheduling systems aren't equipped to handle. Let's take a 35-chair infusion center that operates 10.5 hours per day, treating 5 types of appointments: 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 to 5 hours, 6 to 8 hours, or 9 or more hours. 4 sets of patients can start their treatment at 10-minute intervals. That's 256 possible start times or slots per day. What's the number of ways in which these patients can be started? A number with over 100 zeros behind it. There's absolutely no chance of stumbling on the right answer through simple rules like scheduling long appointments in the morning and short appointments in the afternoon, or by scheduling to a chair, a pod, or a nurse. Existing EHRs and scheduling systems don't even attempt to optimize the schedule. That's where IQ.
So you can see that they're able to. Oh, wait, let me. Tim, is my audio okay? All right. So it improves patient satisfaction, helps clinic efficiency, and really optimizes treatment. One of the biggest issues in healthcare right now is getting access to your provider. Sure, we can see you, but it's not going to be for 6 months. Well, I have a cold now. So being able to decrease the administrative burden, get more patients in, is something we're all working on. We are using parts of this for throughput in our hospital. So how do we manage staff? How do we manage our beds? And our operating rooms as well. There's some really very interesting stuff going on with OR scheduling. Whoop. So coding and billing, this is the part of healthcare we all hate. Doctors don't like it, patients don't like it, but it is what makes the business function. So there's a lot of manual processes, a lot of very complex administrative tasks. I'm not going to go into very much at all, but there's a lot of automation that is happening in this, what we call a revenue cycle, from when the service is provided all the way to when the payment is received. What's kind of cool, and we saw a preview of this, is patient portals with Epic with AI embedded. The EMR that we use at Bay Health is called Epic. MyChart is the patient portal. Many of you are familiar with MyChart. If you live up north, you will be, because Christiana Care is switching over to Epic in about a year and a half. And if you live way down south, BB is switching to Epic in November of this year. So all patients in the state, frankly, will be on Epic and have their patients be on MyChart. So Epic just unveiled last month that they're going to have a digital assistant in their patient portal called Emmy. So you can see I know the text is a little bit small, but you'll be able to ask Emmy questions. It'll help you interpret your test results, schedule, and maybe even do some basic medical question answering. So a lot of very cool stuff, putting information in the hands of patients. What's scary to me is chatbots out there. So Dr. Cody, I just Googled AI doctor, and this is the top 2 results. So Dr. Cody, you can ask him medical questions. And then there's Doctronic, which as it says, as an AI doctor, my service is fast and free. But at the very bottom of the website, it says Doctronic is not an AI is not a doctor, does not practice medicine, and does not provide medical advice or patient care. So that one to me is a little bit concerning. You can put stuff into ChatGPT. I have put stuff into ChatGPT. My wife has put stuff into ChatGPT. But be very careful about what you ask and the information that you get back. Sometimes it's great, and sometimes it is not great. So some ethical considerations, and I think I only have a couple slides left here, and I appreciate everyone sticking around. So how do we get consent? You as the patient, how do you know, and do you want to know whether I'm using artificial intelligence in your diagnosis and treatment? Where is your data going? Knowing that it's safe and secure and protected. And I think one of the biggest things is bias. We talked a little bit about this, that, are we missing some voices? Do we have underrepresented patient populations in the data sets that these tools are trained on? And do people trust them? So there's a real example that the AI thought Black patients were healthier than they were because they tied medical spending to be equivalent to being healthier. Again, I'm not sure where that assumption came from, but the AI created that connection. And because Black patients spend less because they don't access healthcare as much, assumed that they were healthier, when in fact the opposite is generally true. So it can be very, very dangerous to draw conclusions from these tools. And my concern is, if it's right 99% of the time and wrong 1% of the time, how often are we going to check 100% of the time? And people are going to start relying on these tools 100% because they're right 99%. And someone is going to get hurt because we didn't check it 100%. Legal considerations, who's accountable? Doctors are sort of obsessed, honestly, with medical malpractice, but for good reason. But if the AI tells me to do something and I do it or don't do it, am I liable? Is it liable? And so a lot of this stuff is being played out in the courts right now, or will be played out over the next 5 to 10 years. And how do we share responsibility? And if there's a lawsuit, who pays how much, et cetera, et cetera. So there are a lot of to be determined in this space. So ultimately, what do I think about artificial intelligence in healthcare? It's a tool that is going to be used to support, not replace healthcare professionals. I think there's a lot of fear, and some of the things that I may have referenced you could probably leap to the conclusion or jump to the conclusion that it's going to replace some jobs. It probably will replace some jobs, not all. And there will still be plenty of work to be done. Just like in that picture in 1905 to 1925, we needed automobile technicians. We will need people trained in how to support AI, how to work with it. And there's a couple of meme type sayings around where you're not going to be replaced by AI, but you're going to be replaced by a human who can work with AI. So learning to use these tools, learning to use them effectively and in partnership is where I think things are headed. But I'm very excited about it, and I thought that robot shaking hands with a person was a fun picture. So I put it in. And then our tagline at Bay Health is our commitment runs deep. We believe very deeply that we want to be there for our community. We want to use tools and expertise that will help support our community. And I truly think artificial intelligence is going to be one of those areas where we do that. So thank you. I appreciate you listening to me talk, and I'm happy to answer any questions or whatever Tim says.
All righty, and yes, indeed, we have questions.
Oh boy,
We
I
can-
ended my sharing. I don't know if I need to. All right, close my thing. Do I need to stop sharing, Tim? Or
Yeah, stop sharing.
all right, I'm stop sharing.
All right, great. So, we'll just start from the top and go down. And again, you can see these if you open up the Q&A.
Yep, I see. So you want me to start from the top and
Yeah, sure, go for it.
so mental health and AI treatment. So this is an area where I think there's a lot of potential. There are not enough mental health professionals in the country or in the world to help the crises that were going on. So I do think that these technologies can help. They can't replace, and they need to be very, very carefully vetted. And whether or not it's a conversational AI like a chatbot versus someone who can maybe give you guidance or refer you to the right resources. I do think that AI can. There was in one of the slides where AI can't hold your hand. They're getting really good at being empathetic and listening. I think we will start to see these tools out in the wild in the next little while for counseling type resources rather than not prescribing or diagnosing, but for counseling and referring people to the right resources. There's a lot of stuff in the Blade press about suicide and how ChatGPT was involved in a suicide or two or three, which is too many. How do you put guardrails around that and have the tool be used appropriately? So I do think that. Let me see. This is going in reverse order. Let me try to start at the bottom and work my way up. Can I? In the pharmacies, absolutely. I think that there's a lot of role for pharmacists and pharmacies. The medications we're all on are, there's a list of side effects a mile long. Are they real? Are they common? Are they not common? Are they going to interact with my other 4 medications? I saw a patient today in the clinic that had 27 meds. Like to look at the side effect profile and the interactions is not possible for a human being, but for a computer, absolutely. Let's see. What happens if there's a massive power failure or massive power failure or the system gets hacked? I don't have a great answer for that. We and other healthcare institutions drill for this. What's a little bit worrisome is there are folks like me who are old, though it's hard for me to say that out loud, who practice on paper. And so having downtime procedures and having mechanisms to access the information we need to take care of patients when the system goes down and to deliver care is something that we are very worried about. Again, there's a lot of folks that have done that. But as we get farther into the future, it's going to require a lot of drills, tabletop exercises, and building redundancy into the systems. But yeah, there's only so much redundancy if you have a hurricane or a tornado or an earthquake or a hack. So what would I do if AI got something wrong? So most of these tools have feedback mechanisms where we can at least let the developer know that something is wrong. And they are very interested in getting that feedback. So they make it very easy and hopefully improve their tools. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of grabbing random ones here. Am I familiar with quantum computers? I am not. They're very fast, is all I know. And as computers get faster and faster, the AI will get better and better. But that's essentially my expertise on AI, on quantum computing. just a comment about finding diagnoses. Absolutely. I believe that human doctors are not omniscient. We're not infallible. We make mistakes. We are just people who go through a lot of school. So if there are tools that can help us find, I think of medical errors as layers of Swiss cheese. For those of you who eat Swiss cheese, there are holes that go through Swiss cheese. Some of them go all the way through. Some of them stop halfway through. So when we think about having bad things happen to patients, we talk about adding layers to the block of Swiss cheese, because hopefully that we don't want the hole to go all the way through the block of cheese. So if AI is another slice with a small hole in it versus or no hole in it, maybe that's a good thing. So I 100% think. How much time is saved with ambient voice technologies? It depends on the doctor. Some folks are saving tens of hours. Some people are saving 25 or 30 minutes. And I'm not sure if you were able to hear the audio, but part of it is also cognitive burden. This sort of remembering what I talked about, or I'm typing and talking at the same time. That is not necessarily time saved, but it's like mental stress that's sort of reduced, which allows me to focus on the conversation that I'm having with you. So that is another area where we're seeing a lot of improvements. Hard to measure that. It's really subjective. But we're seeing a lot of improvements there. Are there risks with patients asking questions that doctors don't want them to? You know, I truly believe that you should ask any and all the questions. And if your doctor is uncomfortable with that, find a new doctor, because they should be comfortable with you asking any questions, and you should feel comfortable asking them any questions. Do I think it will replace any medical jobs? I don't know the answer to that. I think it's going to replace some work, but I believe that it's going to be the more clerical, automated type stuff. Medical work, probably not. In terms of the diagnosis and treatment. AI can't do surgery. I think there were some at the very beginning, folks were talking about having the robots do surgery. Maybe, I don't know, in 150 or 25 or 50 years that might happen. But right now, you still need a human operator, someone with expertise to do that work. Do patients have to consent to the recording? It depends on the state. Delaware is kind of a goofy state. Some states require two-party consent. Some states require one-party consent. But most organizations have built into their consents or have a conversation with the patient, say, hey, I'm going to record you. It's not going anywhere. It's just for me to write my note. Is that okay? And in the real world, almost 100% of patients say yes, because they see the value in me not turning and typing, and then having the conversation. Veterinary purposes, I don't know the answer to that. I would assume that they're probably looking that. Do I think that AI, so how can AI be used in neurology? They're using AI to diagnose strokes. That red dot system that I mentioned, there's a technology that we use at Bay Health called Rapid AI. If you get a head CT or a head CAT scan and it shows a stroke, it instantaneously sends a message to the on-call neurologist, who can review that study and then get his or her butt into the hospital and give you the medication, or even call and do a virtual video visit to get the medication and treatment that you need. Let's go. And Tim, tell me if I need to stop or what's.
You're good. Keep rolling.
All right. Okay. Trying to find one that's. How do you converse with patients to maintain trust and transparency? I think it's sort of having the conversation. And again, a doctor with an ego who says, I know everything, you know, that's probably not the right person to be using these tools, and is not going to trust them. Those of us who don't know everything, and say, hey, I'm going to use this tool. I have 10 years of experience or 15 years of experience, but you know, I'm use these tools to help me take better care of you. Most patients are going to be okay with that. If they were to be used regularly, what were the cost concerns? So this is this is a real thing, and I appreciate the question. These things aren't free. The cost of healthcare is going up and up and up and up. A lot of it has to do with the administrative burden that we're placing on patients, physicians, but your parents' insurance premiums are going up. The companies that they work for are having to spend more and more of their money on providing healthcare. The government is spending more and more of its money on healthcare. So these tools are added cost. The hope is that we can eliminate some of the waste, some of the extra stuff that people are doing or that we're buying extra technology to do, so we can eliminate some of that stuff and hopefully either flatten the costs or decrease them. But right now it's additive and they're not free. These things cost money. Have I ever encountered an AI that caused them? I have not. Luckily, I have seen a lot of stuff in the lay press about mistakes, mostly outside of medicine. But I have not seen one personally. Would I completely rely on AI to explain my diagnosis? No. To a patient? No, I wouldn't. I have used AI to generate patient handouts, to come up with exercises or other things when I discuss a diagnosis. The other thing we're starting to use AI in, and I didn't mention, is in translation. English is not everyone's first language. And using artificial intelligence to translate documents, to do translations during a video encounter can be incredibly helpful. There's a lot of data around language as a barrier to healthcare and outcomes as well. Do I think AI could replace any nursing jobs if they ever load emotional intelligence into empathy? I think kind of touched on it a little bit. AI is a really good listener. It doesn't get tired. It will continue to listen as long as the power is going to the computer. So, a lot of the nursing work that is data entry that they are doing is going to be replaced by artificial intelligence, probably with those ambient voice listening tools. And Tim, did you need me or?
Right. I just wanted to address a little nuance here. So there's empathy, which is the ability to understand and share a person's feelings, while social intelligence is that broader capacity to understand, to navigate social situations, communicate effectively, build connections. And as you mentioned, AI is unexhaustible. It's not going to get tired. As long as it has power, it's going to keep listening. So there's a lot of subtlety around talking about empathy, which is at this point a distinctly human characteristic or trait, as opposed to social intelligence, which can be a machine attribution. It's still very, very complicated, but you can express, whether through your face, through intonations, through what you type, to AI. It is getting better and better at interpreting anger, happiness, laughter, joy, and whatnot. But that's not empathy. That's social intelligence.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Tim. I'm
Yep.
definitely not an expert in that, so apologies for using the term sort of interchangeably.
Oh, no, it's fine.
If the AI gets something wrong and the patient is able to sue, would the patient sue the AI company? Again, I think that's honestly yet to be determined. There are folks that are most likely suing the companies, but also suing the hospitals and the physicians. I truly hate sort of thinking about that stuff, but it's a great question. It's a fair question. I don't know that we 100% know the answer. Will AI make healthcare affordable? I think it's certainly going to make parts of it more accessible and hopefully more affordable. As chatbots get better, as the cost of this technology comes down, that you'll hopefully be able to see some cost reduction. But healthcare economics it's a whole nother lecture about how complex the payment system is and how much you pay versus the insurer pays versus all of that is very, 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 very complicated. So it's just hard to answer that question. Could AI replace the security aspect? We are using artificial intelligence to help in our data security at Bay Health. We have an entire department, and we call it InfoSec, or information security. And those folks are using AI in conjunction with other companies to help keep our data safe and our patients safe. What we're starting to see now is bad actors, is what we call the bad guys, calling and pretending to be patients. Using voice AI, using social engineering to scrape your data from Facebook and other things to answer security questions. And so we're using AI to help combat that to authenticate that you are you and not a robot. So very, very exciting and very good job security and information security. If those of you who may not be interested in being doctors, healthcare IT is a great career. How has AI helped with oncology research? So this ability to identify patterns that humans don't see is leading to some very interesting research. I don't have those at the tip of my tongue, but they are absolutely using it to help do research that they're doing, identify patients who might do better on one treatment versus the other, where a human might not see the pattern. So absolutely. Can AI help with the tracking of disease outbreaks? Absolutely. That's something, that pattern recognition. We feed our data to the state. We're actually mandated. All healthcare organizations are mandated to send their data to the state. There's Epic, the company that makes our medical record system, is collecting de-identified healthcare data from all of their customers. And one of the use cases they announced was helping to identify outbreaks earlier. Let's see here. A lot of people are against AI because it's dangerous in our environment. So I think the cat is out of the bag. I don't think we can find another way around it. I think we can be more responsible. AI, these computers generate a lot of power, consume a lot of power. And so how we generate electricity in this country and some of the other things around sort of how it's developed and maintained, I think probably need to be regulated and to be looked at, but I think it's here to stay. What if a patient is against AI? I think it's hard to be in reality. It's everywhere. If they have a phone, they're using AI. If they are driving a car, they're using AI. So I think that it's a little bit of a boogeyman. It's this scary thing that is gonna turn against us. The Terminator movies, again, this 2001 Space Odyssey, if you're old like me, that the AI will hurt us or do something against our interests. I don't think that's reality. And I think that as folks understand what it is and what it's capable of, there are parts of AI which I don't know that I love. When I call American Airlines, am I talking to a person or am I talking to a computer? It would be nice for there to be some transparency around that. Or when you're chatting in with Amazon, is that person named Sam a computer or a person? I do think that there probably needs to be some regulation around, transparency of what and how we interact with these tools. Will it replace doctors? I don't think it's going to replace doctors. At least I hope that while I still am working. I think it's a partnership. I think we will always need human beings to hold your hand, to look you in the eye, to cry with you, to do the things that doctors and nurses can only do because they're human. But in partnership with technology that will help us deliver better, safer care, absolutely. I think it may replace parts of the work that we do. What parts of medicine can AI not replace? Again, I think it's that hand holding. I think it's that emotional intelligence, the zebras, we call them in healthcare, the stuff. I've only seen one of those. Something is wrong, that spidey sense, I call it sometimes, that all the data looks good, all the numbers look fine, but something's not right. So that human intuition, I think, will never be replaced.
And I think along with that, I would add ethical decision-making.
100% agree. When do you discontinue treatment or continue treatment? Those are very, very thorny questions. Um, do you think that people in the medical field will become overly dependent on AI, and how would that be prevented or handled? Can you name a few examples of where we would not want to use AI in medicine for the future? So I don't think that AI is going to be independently able to diagnose and treat, that there should be a human being that evaluates the output and then ultimately presses the button that says, okay, I'm going to send this antibiotic to the pharmacy, or you are going to need this surgery, and that we need to have sort of a stopgap. I think it will be very good, and I think we will probably hit that button 99 out of 100 times, but we still probably need a person in there. In terms of the environmental impacts, I honestly don't know how to answer that question. I think a lot of it has to do with just responsible use of technology and power generation. Keeping information private. I think it's very, very difficult in this day and age to keep information private. There are federal rules around how we use and share, and how we can use and share healthcare data. But I operate under the assumption that it's out there. But we take as an organization, we take every precaution to safeguard your data. But I sit across from the IT security people, and they have a bumper sticker that says, security is the enemy of convenience. So the easier we make things, the less secure they are. So I can put your data in a vault with 17 keys and 97 passwords and never be able to get at it. Which means I can't take care of you, or I can make it so it's reasonably safe, but I can still access it. So there's a trade-off between security and convenience that we walk all the time. So I'm arguing with them that I don't need a 32-digit password. They're arguing with me that we need a 96-character password. So we settle on 48 because security we need to be able to access the systems to use them. What would you do if AI bugged and deleted all the data for the patient? So that's not the way it works. We keep our data sort of separate. The AI usually is layered on top of or sitting over here, and then we interact with it. It is not something that's sort of sitting in or manipulating the data. So I'm not concerned about that at all. I know I'm skipping over some people here. Do you think it will be a problem with the patient being reliant on AI for fast answers rather than doctor's visits? I think we're already starting to see that, whether it's those chat bots I mentioned. And some of it is reasonable, right? Like some of these questions, you shouldn't have to call, make an appointment, take a day off work, drive in, pay a $20 copay, sit in a waiting room for 30 minutes to ask a simple question. So having sort of the simple stuff or the easy stuff handled by robots or AI, I'm fine with that. I think most doctors are fine with that, and patients want it. So how do we triage, again, that word, to get the right question or the right need to the right person, is something that AI can help with. Hey, I'm having chest pain, or I can't see, or my left side is weak. Those need to go to the emergency department. But hey, I've got this wart. I can I can say take a picture. We'll send it to the on-call dermatologist or whatever, and we'll get you an answer within 24 hours. Like, it doesn't need to be seen right away. So I think that triage ability to get the questions to the right people will be very, very helpful. But our society is now. Even I'm like, if it doesn't come in 2 days from Amazon, I'm like, where's my package? I do think that that need for speed may impact accuracy, and folks will find bad information because they just want something fast. Do you think plans for people to opt out of LLMs will be set in place? So how the data is accessible, there's a lot of interest. I think the early days, these last couple of years, these companies like OpenAI and Tesla or Grok or whatever Elon's company is called have probably illegally scraped the internet, essentially all of it, taken everyone's data and used it to train their models. So you're starting to see some things about licensing deals and about lawsuits with regards to copyright infringement. So how these models are trained and the data that they're trained on, I think will change over time, so that they're not scraping the entire internet, and we'll have a little bit more control over what they ingest. Do I think it will change doctors' pay in the future? I don't know the answer. It's a very interesting question. I think that physicians are paid because of our expertise and our skill. It may. I don't honestly. I don't know. Hopefully not. But I think as we expand the knowledge and make it more accessible to other people in other kinds of professions, that it might impact pay. But I honestly am not sure. What would happen if you didn't proof check the AI overview and the summary of a visit has already reached the patient? That is happening now. We have processes to amend the medical record or call patients and let them know. It's our responsibility if we're going to use the tool to check its output. And it's hard when it's right. And I've said it a couple times. If it's right 99% of the time, I'm probably not going to check it that last one. And we have to check. And if you're using these tools to write your papers in school, I'm not sure what the policies are. You gotta check it. You have to check it. Could AI be used in the absence of a doctor in remote areas? Absolutely, but I think we're using things like telemedicine and other things where you can beam a person in or make someone available. But absolutely, I think in a pinch, something is better than nothing. Especially after hours or in remote areas. Absolutely. Can AI possibly help with future medical professionals solve medical mysteries like unusual symptoms or unknown causes of death? I think so. I think it's uh, pretty good at identifying patterns that people don't see, connecting the dots. What it's also doing, and this is not exactly what you asked, but if I have a patient that I'm really confused about, a lot of these, Epic actually has a tool now where you can press a button and it'll find patients like yours, like the one that's sitting in front of you, if it has a rare condition, and connect you with that professional, so that they can hopefully help you take care of that patient. So I might think it's a medical mystery, but a doctor 2 states over may see this every day, because he or she is a specialist in it. And being able to connect you because of AI identifying that pattern is pretty cool. AI in pediatric settings. I think a lot of the stuff I talked about today is applicable to pediatrics. Do you think someone can make a website for almost like a subscription every month and use AI for free healthcare and still make money? I don't know the answer to that one. I think these Doctronics and the Cody AIs are an attempt to do something like that, where you pay a subscription and you can ask it questions. But again, it's only as good as the information. And if you're pretending to be a doctor or saying that you're a doctor, you're potentially, opening yourself to serious problems. Will AI be able to handle disease cases and give them potential treatments? I think yes, it is helping us to take symptoms and recommend treatments. Absolutely. AI could potentially give us a treatment for cancer patients in the future. Absolutely. These are things that the drug companies are using AI to help identify molecules that could potentially be used as drugs, running simulations before they spend millions and millions of dollars developing a drug, to be able to run simulations on how that drug might work in a human being. It is absolutely something they're doing now. Does AI cross-reference in both directions, old med against new and new against the old? Yes, I think it can. What is the role of AI in prevention? I think that this is a great question. We spend a lot of money and time in healthcare treating sick people instead of keeping people healthy. I know that's a little bit of a sort of a paradox, but looking for patients that are healthy and patterns and things that are keeping them healthy You know, there's some things about food as medicine, exercise as medicine. How do we identify things that are keeping folks healthy, and keeping them out of doctors' offices? I think AI can absolutely be used. I think I don't see anything new coming in, Tim. I think I hit most of them.
I think you have answered more questions than I can remember any recent presenter. And did it totally unflappable. Yeah, I think the one question that I can speak to is about the AI comes at an environmental cost. It is highly energy dependent, and it also produces a lot of heat that needs to be shed off. So here in Newcastle County, very close to the Delaware River, they're talking about putting in a huge installation that would basically use the same amount of power, I think, as basically all of Delaware households in a year. But now they're talking about they're gonna build their own power generation. So indeed, these are very complicated questions. I think it becomes a matter of what risk are municipalities willing to take on in terms of sharing their power, looking at the environmental impact versus the jobs that are potentially created and the tax revenue that can come in from having these types of huge, mega installations in your backyard. Unflappable, he's not AI, is he? Haha, funny, Amy. Anyway, doctor, thank you very, very much.
I hope I'm not AI. I don't know. If you've seen The Matrix, maybe we all are living in the Matrix right now. I'm happy to connect with folks offline. This is obviously, I'm passionate about it. I love hearing myself talk as well. So I'm happy, and I'm glad so many people joined and stuck around for the questions and answers.
Yeah. All right, everybody. See you next week. Have a great time until then. Take care. Bye-bye.